Okay. Hello, Nikhil. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. आप
You're
कैसे हो?
fine. Your group has joined.
मतलब they will join. They will see on Facebook. Like I'll broadcast this to Facebook, and they'll be watching on Facebook.
Evelina, you are based where?
I'm from Kolkata and I have done nursing, BSc nursing. Now I'm doing job in state government in West Bengal.
Okay. Okay. Which place in this in Kolkata only or any
It's
other?
Kalyani, Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, JNM Medical College.
Kalyani also has an AIMS.
Yeah,
AIMS
yeah.
Kalyani is there.
Yes.
So good evening, everyone. Today we have with us Dr. Vineet Ahuja, who is a professor of gastroenterology at AIMS in New Delhi. He is India's and one of the world's leading experts on treatment of inflammatory bowel disease. And he is actively involved in IBD research and is a regular speaker at conferences all around the world. And he's also a member of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of India, which is a society of physicians with special interest in treatment of IBD. He also has a special interest in nutrition and was the speaker at the launch event of IBD NutriCare app. So today we'll be interacting with him to learn more about the fecal microbiota transplant, which is an emerging treatment option for IBD. And yeah, so I'll hand over to Debulina. So
Can you please explain in simple words what is FMT?
Okay, thank you, Debolina. First of all, thank you, Nikhil and Debolina, for having me along with your friends. It's a special moment for me to be with all of you. And on behalf of the whole IBD team at AIMS, we all extend our greetings to you. Now, the question is that today, the topic of discussion today is fecal microbial transplantation. And as the term says, transplantation. So when we talk about transplantation, the kind of image which comes to your mind is, let's say, kidney transplant. Pick up kidney from a healthy person, take it out, surgically put it in the person who has a diseased kidney after taking out the diseased kidney. Liver transplant. You pick up liver from a healthy person and so again surgically transplant into a person whose liver is damaged because of hepatitis B infection or alcohol or any such reason, right? But those are extensive surgical procedures, right? Fecal microbial transplantation is the whole concept, maybe I would say, is not something very recent. In
सर
fact,
एक बार रुक जाते हैं और फिर से दिक्कत हो रहा है. सॉरी, थोड़ा सा मैं
there are no issues. I have
कर
no
लेता हूँ.
issues.
मैं एक बार कट करके ना आपको रीमेसेज करता हूँ 5 मिनट में.
You take your time and don't get flustered at all. कोई issue नहीं, आराम से take your time. I mean,
अभी हो रहा है, पता नहीं जब मैं कर रहा हूँ अभी फिर से वापस स्टार्ट हो गया.
कोई इशू नहीं. अब इस बार स्टार्ट करोगे तो इंट्रोडक्शन नहीं देना, बिल्कुल स्ट्रेट अवे विल स्टार्ट.
ठीक है मैं एक बार फिगर आउट करता हूँ इसको, क्या चक्कर क्या हो रहा है इसका. Okay, I think ओके. देबुलिना कुछ बोलना.
हेलो. सुनाई दे रहा है?
मुझे तो सुनाई दे रहा है बट उधर जा रहा है नहीं, पता करना पड़ेगा.
तो ऑडियंस में से किसी को बोलो लिखने के लिए ऑडिबल है या
नहीं. ऑडिबल नहीं आ रहा है ना. एक सेकंड. हेलो. हाँ सुदीप्ता, आवाज नहीं आ रहा है क्या? हाँ, अरे बीच में एक्चुअली आ रहा है मुझे भी और फिर चला जा रहा है. एक बार, हाँ एक बार डिस्कनेक्ट कर रहा हूँ और एक बार ना मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ कि एक सेकंड मैं रीस्टार्ट करता हूँ. एक बार फिर तुम बताना, ठीक है, कि सबका आवाज आ रहा है या नहीं. ठीक है. हाँ. ठीक है, अब हो जाएगा। ठीक है सर, मैं स्टार्ट करता हूँ।
ठीक है, ठीक है।
Okay, so welcome back everyone. So we'll just skip the introduction.
We'll skip the introduction, Nikhil.
And we'll just start with the questions.
So thank you, Nikhil and Debolina. Thank you so much, the whole team, for inviting me out here. It is a special pleasure for me to be with all of you. And so I guess the topic today is fecal microbial transplantation. And Debolina has asked this question to me already, that I should start with a basic introduction about what does FMT mean. So FMT is a transplantation. Transplantation now can be, you would have heard of kidney transplant, you would have heard of heart transplant, you would have heard of liver transplant, you would have heard of bone marrow transplant. But whenever you hear of such kind of, so with these terms which I've told you, then the kind of image you have in mind is that obviously somebody has to be admitted. This is a big surgery which has to be done, and after surgery, the patient has to be. Nikhil, we continue, na?
एक सेकंड कुछ ना कुछ दिक्कत हो जा रही है, पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है। एक सेकंड सर, अब ऑडियो आया तो वीडियो चला गया।
Video we can still do without.
हाँ, बस एक सेकंड सर, गलती में समझ गया क्या हो रही है।
ठीक है,
बस अब की बार फाइनल है, अब की बार हो जाएगा।
sure, done.
डन सर, अब की बार फाइनल है। डन सर,
Done.
अभी बस हो जाएगा।
I think we should just chat for 2-3 minutes to be very sure about it.
अब हो गया सर, कंफर्म्ड है अब। हाँ, okay, welcome back everyone. Sorry for all the technical issues, and we'll just begin with what is fecal microbiota transplant. Yes, sir, we are good.
Fecal microbiota transplant is whereby, because in IBD, you know, as ulcerative colitis or can be Crohn's disease. Now it was felt that gut microbiota, the bacteria in the gut, they play a very important role in terms of changing what I would say is how the disease behaves. It is still not very sure that they are the cause of inflammatory bowel disease, but at the same time, they are prime movers. They have a very, very important role to play, right? So, gut microbiome, obviously, if it has a very important role to play, how can you change the gut microbiome? You can change the gut microbiome by, let's say, giving antibiotics. It would change the gut microbiome, but they may not change it for the better. They may change it for the worse. You can change gut microbiome by giving probiotics. Probiotics are things like Bifilac, Visilac. These are the kind of things which you might have heard in the market. These are basically things which are, let us say, available in curd, right? So these are things like lactobacilli or something like that, bifidobacteria. So what happens is when probiotics are medicines which contain these live bacteria, when they are given, as a result, they'll go and propagate themselves. And so you expect the gut the microbiota in the gut to change towards more healthy microbiota, something which will decrease the disease symptoms, right? But then probiotics is something like giving homeopathic medicine, like some very small doses under. So people thought that why not do change the whole ecosystem out there? There's a whole ecosystem inside the gut, which consists not only of bacteria, but also of viruses, also of fungi. So is there any way you can change the whole ecosystem? And it contains not only of bacteria, but also the metabolites of the bacteria. So how would you do that? Obviously, you can do that if you have a healthy person who has what you presume that would have a healthy microbiome, which would have a good proportion of healthy bacteria, the better bacteria, the good bacteria. So if you take feces from that person and subsequently you transplant it into or put it into the colon of a person who has inflammatory bowel disease, this would result in change of the microbial profile out there. What were the unhealthy bacteria out there may get replaced by these healthier bacteria. And if there are healthy bacteria, then you hope that that will change the course of the disease and the symptoms like bleeding, diarrhea, abdominal pain, they would go down. So that was a basic presumption or the principle behind fecal microbial transplantation. Now, when you are doing a kidney transplant or you're doing a liver transplant, or then what you're doing is that you are taking up an organ from another person's body and putting it into another person, right? So what happens is, so as a result, the body starts reacting against such kind of foreign antigens. The moment you put, let's say, part of liver into another person or a kidney from another person to the diseased person, wherever the kidney is transplanted, that kidney will be thought to be as foreign antigen. Body will immediately start reacting against it. There will be a lot of inflammation. So to decrease that, you always have to give a lot of immunity suppressing drugs. So that is why after transplant like kidney transplant, heart transplant and all, because a lot of foreign antigen is being transferred across, you do not want havoc to arise in the sense that body starts reacting against these foreign antigens. So there you have to give a lot of immunosuppressive therapy, and that also lifelong. That is why you would have seen kidney transplant patients being on steroids, azathioprine, such kind of immunosuppressive therapy lifelong. They have to. Whereas that is the one very interesting thing about fecal microbial transplant. Here, you're not transplanting any organ from one body to another. You're simply transporting bacteria, which is not part of a body as such, to another body, right? So you do not require any immunosuppressive medication to be accompanied along. That is one. Now you would think that it is a very new concept. No, it is not. In fact, like way back 2000 years back in Ayurveda, they talked about it. Chinese medicine also talked about it. So in between, like people have been talking about it. It is just now that from last, I would say 10, 15 years, it is being very systematically studied. And why is it being systematically studied? Because as I told you, I don't know if that part was recorded or not, that if you look at one of the principal prime movers of inflammatory bowel disease, which comprises of ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, that prime mover is the bacteria or the gut microbiome, the bacteria which is present in the liver. Like 20 years back, people thought that there are very few bacteria which exist in the gut. They thought that there are not many bacteria in the gut because only few bacteria exist in the gut. But then subsequently, technology made this change. What kind of technology? New kind of sequencing platforms came up. by which you could identify the bacteria which were not getting identified before. So when these new technological platforms came up, everybody started doing work on that, and then they realized that they were astounded. They found out that if you talk about a human being, then you look at the sum total of bacteria, viruses which are present in the gut, and also that every bacteria also has its own genes. So if you look at the total gene pool, then 99% of genes inside the human body are because of those bacteria, and 1% of the gene is because of human being. 90% of cells are because of those bacteria if you look at the total number of cells in the human being, and 10% is only because of the human being. So suddenly the concept changed. Like man became to be known as a superorganism. Man was no longer one single being and like bacteria were living outside. No, these were our guests which we never thought that they were present inside. And not only they were present, they were present in very large numbers. Not only they were present in large numbers, they were influencing every function of health as well as disease. Even when somebody is healthy, they were influencing the health system. And somebody obviously gets disease, they were major influencers in the causing the disease. So that is a big paradigm shift which has come up in last 10, 15, 20 years. And secondly, it was not restricted only to gut diseases, because that is common sense. Okay, it is gut bacteria, so it should be only dealing with diseases like gut. Okay, so inflammatory bowel disease, it should affect it. Irritable bowel syndrome, it may affect it. Okay, liver diseases possibly because they seem to be linked, so it may affect like things like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or fatty liver, what we call, which has also become very. But again, everybody was stunned when they realized that it not only affects the gut diseases, but it also affects neurological disorders. Disorders like multiple sclerosis, disorders like Parkinsonism disease. You would have heard of Parkinsonism disease. Disorders like Alzheimer's, where there is early onset dementia, all seem to be influenced by the gut bacteria. The outreach of the gut bacteria is so much that it affects heart disease. It probably promotes atherosclerosis if there are bad bacteria inside. So it becomes very important to decide what is the composition of the people of the microorganisms which are living inside that gut, since they seem to be having a very strong influence on the human body. And obviously, if that composition is not good, can you change that composition towards a healthier composition, better composition? Then obviously, then you expect, yes, the disease may also settle down, because if there are healthier bacteria inside, there'll be healthier metabolites they'll be secreting, then as a result, the disease will not be there. So this is the whole concept of gut microbiome. This is the whole concept of changing the gut microbiome towards a better thing. Again, let me underline and put it in bold. It is still not known whether microbiome is the cause of inflammatory bowel disease. It could possibly just be the effect. It's like the chicken and egg story. Which came first, we don't know. Is it possible that ulcerative colitis happened, then the gut microbiome changed, or the gut microbiome changed and then ulcerative colitis? But nevertheless, whether it is the chicken or egg story, gut microbiome has a profound influence on functioning of the colon and the symptoms. So it makes sense in replacing it with better bacteria. And one of the effective ways of changing the bacteria is by fecal microbial transplantation, whereby you pick up feces from a healthy donor and transplant it into a diseased person.
So, sir, our next question is, for organ transplant, the donor and receiver are usually matched. So is there any criteria for matching donor in the case of FMT?
So there is no, you're not transferring any cells and all. Since you're transferring bacteria, basically your bacterial secretions, metabolites, feces and all, right? So as a result, you do not require to do any, for example, HLA matching is done in kidney transplant. That is just to look at the compatibility of the tissues, so that one tissue does not react against another tissue. That kind of matching is not at all required in fecal microbial transplantation. However, so you do not require any kind of matching actually, except that you want what? You want the person to be healthy, who is donating the feces, right? Because if you're going to take it from an unhealthy person, then the reason for which you're doing is lost. Then the purpose will not be achieved if you're going to take feces from an unhealthy person. Now, here the definition of a healthy person becomes a little bit more complex, right? Healthy because if you pick up 10 people in a room, they may all look healthy to you, right? Now, for example, I'll tell you some famous experiments. They they picked up some mice who had more of, I would say, fat accumulation in the liver, and or they were a little bit obese, and they picked up some mice who were like not so obese, right? And they also picked up twins, human beings, who were lean and obese, right? So when they transplanted from, and they picked up the mice whereby, like in the sense that you could transplant the feces. So when they transplanted feces from a lean individual to the mice remained lean. When from an obese individual to the mice became obese, right? So, in other words, you may be, if an obese individual, seemingly healthy, you may end up transmitting obesity to that to the person who's getting the disease. So here, the definition of health has to be very, very strict. Like there's a very famous experiment study which came up in Top Journal a year back. This is the Boston Marathon story. Boston Marathon is one of the toughest marathons. The best of the athletes were there. Like so, there they picked up athletes who were doing really well. They typed their microbiome, the fecal microbiome, and found that one particular kind of bacteria was growing very well on it, and that they named it as Villanola. That Villanola is growing very well in it, right? And they realized that the athletes who ran the fastest, they had Villanola. Athletes who were not running so fast, they did not have Villanola. Because Villanola is a bacteria which will metabolize lactic acid. When athletes are running, lactic acid accumulates. So if you have a bacteria which is out there which can metabolize lactic acid and all, obviously lactic acid will not accumulate over. Then they took mice, transplanted, took up those feces from the athletes who were running the fastest, put them into mice, made the mice run on treadmills, and they found that mice who had Villanola transplanted, they ran the fastest. Right? Third thing is that it has been seen that, yeah. So third thing is that it has also been seen that microbiome can also transmit mood disorders. It has been associated with psychiatric illnesses. So if, for example, somebody who is looking very healthy today and you pick up the microbiome from that person and transplant it into a IBD person, it's quite possible you may be giving depression characteristics or obsessive compulsive neurotic characteristics, which may manifest a few months or years later, right? So the definition of healthy donor is very, very stringent. It's very stringent in the sense that it is not on face healthy. On face healthy तो आपको लगता है कि भाई वो ठीक ठाक चल रहा है, सब कुछ है तो वो healthy है. No, you have to do tests in terms of seeing कि उसका liver function test ठीक है, kidney function test ठीक है, BMI ठीक है. BMI is body mass index. कि if he is obese, then there is no point, then he'll not be a good donor, because obese people may have some inflammatory markers, right? Then you would like to rule out infections, common infections like hepatitis E, hepatitis B, hepatitis A virus, HIV virus. Then today in Corona time, it has become very, very essential that if anybody is going to do FMT, that you have to rule out Corona infection in feces also, because even in feces you find a lot of SARS-CoV-2 virus, right? So then besides that, you would like to see that this person does not have any history of major travel in last 2 months, major infection, he has not been on antibiotics. Besides that, it has been seen that sometimes you have drug resistant or microbiota which are there, they should not be transferred. So you have a whole criteria by which you pick up those healthy donors, and thereafter you screen those donors, and only those donors who fulfill all the where you check your check boxes, you tick all the check boxes, they are the best donors. For example, if we screen 30 donors, we find 10 are the best, 10 are the ones who are really healthy, then we only utilize those 10 donors. Another interesting study I would like to talk about out here. So when you talk about who is the healthiest, so what we did is that we picked up healthy people only. We decided that we look at the microbiome of only healthy people, what is classically healthy. So we picked up 25 people who were living in urban areas near Balabgarh. Balabgarh is a place near Delhi. So urban areas, they had urban resident, because we talk about why? Because we talk about IBD, you say it is a disease of which has been transmitted to given to us by the Western world, because the diet has changed. Our diet has become so much more westernized. We are eating burgers, processed food, or even not burgers and also processed food and all those things. So that has changed the diet, and so obviously it is urbanization which is causing the problem, right? Clear? So we picked up urban healthy people. We picked up then people adjacent area who were living in villages, rural, proper rural people. Then we also picked up healthy people from Ladakh, because Ladakh till now we have not seen any case of IBD out there. Although they eat non-vegetarian food, that is cold area, everything, but we haven't seen in last 10, 15 years. So we thought that maybe their gut microbiome is protecting them against it. So let's study that also. So we picked up 25 healthy people from Ladakh, 25 healthy people living in urban area near Delhi, 25 healthy people living in rural area near Delhi. This is Vallabhkar. What do you think? What would you expect? You should actually have the same microbiome in all three of them. They're all healthy. They had no hypertension, no diabetes, no obesity, nothing. But what we found was that urban people had the worst microbiome compared to people living in rural areas or people living in Ladakh. So there is something called as first amongst equals. Even amongst what you feel they are all very good, there is still the best. So obviously the rural people, because of whatever diet they were taking or whatever, so they had a much healthier microbiome. So that is why now when we do FMT, what we do is we try to recruit people from rural areas. We recruit, not only we have a stringent criteria, let us say 20-25 checklist, whereby you see, okay, no obesity, no diabetes, no hypertension, not taking antibiotics, no significant infection in the recent, then all the infections ruled out, stool test done, stool culture test done, ki stool mein to kuch nahi aa raha, and all those things. But we also pick them up from the rural area, right? So that is one way of picking up the donor. If you want to go a little step, okay? Now, should I continue?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So this next step is that when trials of FMT were done, it was seen that, okay, fine, some patients do well, some patients don't do well. But then people who are very observant, they realized that certain donors seem to had a magical effect on the recipients. कि कुछ पेशेंट्स को जब उस पर्टिकुलर डोनर से fecal transplant मिलता था, they would suddenly start doing well. And this was observed in 2-3 studies. So came up with the concept of what is known as super donor. There are certain donors who have such a healthier, even amongst the microbiome, not only a healthier microbiome, but a proportion of bacteria which are more helpful in decreasing symptoms of IBD. So these are known as super donors. So super donors की अभी exact definition बन रही है, but in general, as I told you about rural people having a healthier microbiome. Secondly, it was seen कि short chain fatty acid करके होता है, that is a fuel for colon. So some of the bacteria produce short chain fatty acids. If they are in higher proportion in the donors, then possibly they help in decreasing the disease much faster. So what we do is we not only look at the check boxes, we also look at हाँ भाई rural area से है कि नहीं है. One step higher is we also get the microbiome analysis done for the donors. ठीक है? So getting a microbiome analysis done for the donors is like, for example, you get a whole lot of information by bioinformatics, और उसको फिर आप उसको screen out करके उसमें आप देख लेते हो कि हाँ भाई you're looking at specific groups की short chain fatty acid वाले जो bacteria हैं वो हैं कि नहीं, the short chain fatty acid producers are there. Okay, so possibly this has a potential to be a super donor. So let's use this donor and see. So this becomes a scientific and a rigorous process on how well you choose your donors. आज से 10 साल पहले क्या था कि the people they used to do is कि they started with spouses as donors, either a family member or people who are married, spouses as donors. Why? Because the whole process is a little bit not too aesthetic, and in terms of people have to have some kind of acceptance, adaptability, and obviously that acceptance would come much faster with the spouse, right? But then people argued कि spouse से आप ले तो लोगे, but in a way diet तो spouse की और आपकी same है. So if we are saying that diet has a major role to play in IBD, so spouse may not provide you that kind of benefit, which another donor who has the characteristics towards being a super donor would be able to provide you. right? But still, spouse donation remains one of the key things issue. And in Corona times, I think it may again rebound back, because then the risk of COVID transmission is much less from the spouse rather than from any other unknown person.
So, how is the transplant carried out in patient?
So transplant is carried out. First is that obviously for Clostridium difficile infection, there's an infection by a bacteria known as
C.
Clostridium
difference.
difficile. It is a standard of care if there is a second infection by Clostridium difficile or recurrent Clostridium difficile infection, it becomes a standard of care. ठीक है कि पहली बार आप एंटीबायोटिक से ट्रीट करते हो, उसे नहीं ठीक हुआ तो आप फीकल माइक्रोबियल ट्रांसप्लांटेशन करोगे. सो दैट्स अ स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ केयर अप्रोच अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड. It is US approved, Europe approved, everywhere across the world. It is a standard of care. Okay? Now, when we talk about all other diseases, including inflammatory bowel disease, here it is still taken up in a research setting. Either it is part of a clinical trial, or at times the patients read about it, they're educated about it, they feel that they would like to opt for this therapy, and they say that by themselves they can give consent and they want to opt for this therapy. Right? Otherwise, it is not a regular therapy as yet for inflammatory bowel disease. Either you are part of a clinical trial going on, whereby in one arm your patients are given FMT, so that is thereby they get FMT. Or if the patient says, no, doctor, I would like to opt for FMT. If you can do FMT, I would prefer that over other medicines. Clear? So that is the first part of it, indication. Indication is mainly for Clostridium difficile infection. In IBD, it is still under the research streams, I would say, till more data emerges. The data is also much more for ulcerative colitis than Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease also data is emerging, but for ulcerative colitis, significantly more amount of data is there. So that is one indication. So you have the patient who has to have an indication for this, that he has to undergo FMT. Then you obviously have a donor, whereby you choose the donor. कि donor के जैसे मैंने समझाया वो तो वही रहेगा कि checklist बनेगी, फिर उसके बाद जितना best donor आप choose कर सकते हैं वो आप करेंगे. फिर उसके बाद second is कि आता है कि preparation of the fecal microbial transplant thing, the slurry, and apart from that, how do you do it? So there are two ways by which it can be done. One is that colonoscopically, rectally. Okay? Rectally, what you can do is like colonoscopy is done for ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. So through colonoscope, it can be injected inside the colon, like you go inside and do it. Or it can also be given as an enema form. Do it yourself, DIV, do it yourself enema form, कि आपने घर में ही enemas लगा दी, ठीक है? Or it is also given through a tube which is put through the nose inside duodenum. Duodenum is after stomach, the small intestine when it starts, so that tube goes through duodenum, and then you put the feces through that tube so that they go into the duodenum. However, the most popular amongst these is when it is given colonoscopically or it is given in the form of an enema. Colonoscopically, the advantage is that colon is like it starts from the left side of the body and goes right till the right side of the body. So here you can go and leave it in the right side of the body. So the retention would be more. So the chances are that it will stay more. If it stays for a longer time, then it will get engrafted out there. It will grow out there. It will find a niche for it to survive out there, and then it will grow, and hopefully it will take over the baseline microbiome, and a healthy microbiome will get replaced. So you either do it rectally or through a nasoduodenal tube, but rectally or colonoscopically, as I said, is the most common form. Then how do you do it? You can use fresh feces or you can also use frozen feces. So fresh feces is that the donor gives the feces, they are subsequently in a mixer or somewhere mixed with water, so that it is homogenized. Once it is homogenized, फिर उसके बाद जैसे there's a sieve, छाननी होती है, sieve है, sieve के through you take it out so that you only get the liquid matter out, and then you put it in syringes, 50 ml syringes. So you have 200 ml, 50 ml के 4 syringes बना के, और उसके बाद वो आप कोलोनोस्कोप के थ्रू चैनल से आप इन्फ्यूज कर देते हो inside the patient. Sometimes you ask the patient to prepare for it by taking a peg leg preparation which cleans the whole colon. Thereafter, colonoscopy is done. and after through colonoscope, through the channel of the colonoscope, 200 ml of fecal matter which is mixed with water is left into the right part of the colon. You ask the patient thereafter to lie down for half an hour, because the patient starts moving around immediately. Then what happens is the chances of retention are less. Patient may immediately feel like evacuating, right? So you don't want it to patient to evacuate immediately. Lie down out there for half an hour if possible. And then how many times do you do it? We have been doing it our protocol is that we give 6 to 7 sessions every 2 weeks. We feel that one session may not be enough for a disease like IBD. So here you would require to hit the bacteria again and again, repeatedly hitting the bacteria. So give it every 2 weeks for 6 to 7 sessions.
So is there any side effect that can occur post-transplantation?
So when we talk about side effects, so there are many medicines which are given for IBD. You give steroids, you even simple things like 5-mesalamine, which is given. Various brands are available for mesalamine, or you give steroids. If patient does not improve with that, then you give azathioprine. If patient does not improve with azathioprine, sometimes you have to give intravenous steroids. Patient does not improve with that, then you have to move over to a class of drugs which are known as biologicals. Biologicals are like infliximab, adalimumab, right? Now, not only the biologics are costly in the sense that it works out to for 1 year, that may work out to around 2.5 to 4.5 lakhs, depending upon the various brands available. But besides that, they can predispose to infection. They can predispose to tuberculosis. Steroids can predispose to hypertension, diabetes, glaucoma, glaucoma and cataract are eye things, right? Eye diseases. Then simple acne. Not only that, young patients, they get acne, their body weight increases. That acne lasts for months and it can be very painful. It can affect your self-esteem and all. Azathioprine can cause abdominal pain. It can decrease the total leukocyte count, the WBC count. So all these medicines have a lot of side effects. Compared to that, I would say FMT has the least amount of side effects. In fact, till last year, FMT was considered to be very safe, till a report came from USA where there were 2 deaths because of FMT, which was transmitted where the donor FMT, where the donor stools, they had multi-drug resistant organisms. So that led on to infection in these patients, right? But again, considering the number of FMTs which are done, it is not at all a big number. Or after that, subsequently, guidelines have come up that you screen the donor species much more stringently, and also for antimicrobial resistance genes, which we have also started doing, right? Apart from that, and here when we talk about infliximab and all, infliximab has a high rate of infection. Mortality has been associated with infliximab, adalimumab, and all. Compared to that, this is nothing. So FMT, I would say, has the least amount of side effects, some amount of diarrhea, some amount of bloating, some amount of abdominal pain at times is the best what we have seen in our setting. So I would say it is one of the safest, if you ask me, compared to all other medicines which are used for treating ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease.
So, sir, is it a daycare procedure or it needs hospitalization?
Daycare, absolutely daycare. You just walk in the morning, and we do not also ask our patients to take PEG-LEC or that preparation of colonoscopy. So they just come in, and since if they want a little bit sedation for colonoscopy, so we don't ask them to eat anything. They just come in after the procedure, they lie down for 1 hour and go back. That's all. It's like it takes them total to, you can say, waiting time and everything, including 3 hours or something.
So, sir, what are the current research efforts that are happening related to FMT in India and in abroad?
So FMT has been like centers which are doing very good work on FMT. Besides our center, one is Dayanand Medical College, Ludhiana. Professor Ajit Sood and his team they're doing very good work on FMT, and they have shown that FMT helps in inducing remission, decreasing the disease activity in ulcerative colitis. And once you have decreased the disease activity in ulcerative colitis, then if you give FMT every 2 months, then for 1 year it maintains remission also, right? At our center, besides what we are doing is we are doing FMT plus diet trials. We feel that not only change the FMT, change the diet also. Give them a diet which is more of plant-based. I won't say plant-based, but something a diet which has less of exclusion diet, whereby you have less of wheat, less of milk, less of nuts, less of these things. So as a result, you are not only changing their microbiome, you're also providing them with a diet which will be promoting less of inflammation, right? So we are doing trials whereby we are giving FMT and also changing their diet and looking at their results, what is happening. And we are doing it for both ulcerative colitis as well as Crohn's disease. But at the same time, many centers now have started doing FMT, have started offering patients FMT, whereby patients, if they feel that they would like to undergo FMT, they undergo.
Okay. So how expensive is the procedure? How are donors found?
So the procedure at AIIMS, the cost is zero because AIIMS is a government hospital. Colonoscopy is free of cost out here. And as it is, since we are doing it as part of research activity, so obviously no patient is charged anything at all, because if it is part of if you are enrolling in FMT as part of the research trial, then you're not supposed to pay for any medicine. That's a general rule. So anywhere in India, if it is part of a research trial, then it is supposed to be free for you, right? And if you are going to, it's not part of a research trial, and donors, that is why donors, what we do is donors, we check for the microbiome and all those kind of things, which cost money. Obviously, it costs around 10,000 rupees just to check for the microbiome of the donor, and we also check for the microbiome of the recipients. But then that was a part of research activities. Obviously, the patient does not have to bear the burden at all. So at AIIMS, it is absolutely free of cost. At some places, they may be charging for colonoscopy if they're going to do a colonoscopy. That would be there. And but yes, at the same time, I would say in India, it is still much less expensive compared to biological therapy. Biological therapy, as I told you, for 1 year, the cost may range from 2.5 lakhs to 4.5 lakhs, depending upon the plan. So compared to that, obviously, it is much, much cheaper. And in fact, we recently put in a paper whereby we showed that the FMT and biologicals, they seem to be having almost similar efficacy in a way, to quite some extent. So it is not that the efficacy is much poorer compared to biologics. Obviously, more data needs to come out on that before one needs to give a conclusive statement. But yes, at the same time, the trials which have come up, they show that FMT has a lot of promise for sure. It is not only hype, it is a lot of hope, lot of promise, very less side effects. And obviously it is cost effective compared to biology.
Okay. So for IBD patient, how attractive is FMT as a treatment option? And UC versus Crohn's?
That's a very good question, Devalina, because as I told you initially, more data is available for ulcerative colitis. So I would say right now for ulcerative colitis, the option is much, much more attractive than for patients with Crohn's disease. Because Crohn's ulcerative colitis affects only the colon, easier to manage, right? It affects only the superficial surface of the colon. Whereas Crohn's disease, it can affect the colon, it can affect the small intestine. Not only it affects out there, it can go through all the layers of the intestine and lead to perforation or fistula formation, abscess formation. It can lead to intestinal stricture formation or narrowing of the intestine. So in Crohn's disease, I would say the data is much less compared to ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis, there is a lot of good data. So I would rate ulcerative colitis above Crohn's disease. In Crohn's, if somebody has just a colonic Crohn's and all, there again, yes, they can go ahead and try it out. But ulcerative colitis again. But again, these are all under research settings.
So now anything that has words like bowel or fecal carries a stigma in our society. So do you see patient accepting this treatment or they are reluctant?
So you would be surprised to know that we started doing FMT because the patients came to us. And these are patients who are very, very educated. These were obviously, I'm not taking any names or something, but these are patients who are very educated. They came to us, we want FMT to be done, right? And subsequently, when you start FMT, obviously the aesthetics are not very pleasing initially and all those things. And so obviously for the physicians also, they feel, okay, what is it in the sense, is there anything and all that? But gradually you realize that the patients, the moment you talk to patients, they accept it immediately. The patients are much more, not only happier, they're more confident accepting it. I would say compared to the physicians. The physicians take time to accept, the patients accept it much faster because they realize that it is something which is physiological. It is something which is a natural kind of therapy. It is a therapy which does not have the side effects which are,
Side effects, yeah. Cost effective.
yeah, and it is cost effective. So there are a lot of pluses for it. So they do want to try it out and they're very enthusiastic about it. So I don't think, and moreover, now that microbiome is now, do you know FMT trials are going on in how many diseases? They're going in 30 other diseases.
Okay.
It is no longer FMT trial is for obesity now. That patients who are obese, they are being randomized. Randomized is divided into two groups. One group is being given FMT and one group is being given normal diet, weight reduction by diet. And this trial is going on whereby you want to look at what is the end result. So there also people feel that FMT is going to help. So FMT is something that which is everybody has started accepting it in many other, not only in gastroenterology, leave aside gastroenterology physicians, even in neurology, even in hematological malignancies, when patients undergo bone marrow transplantation, then what happens is they may have a lot of early graft rejection. There, FMT is being tried. In fact, it has been seen that patients who undergo chemotherapy, if you preserve their feces before chemotherapy and after chemotherapy, because when everything gets depleted, then subsequently you transplant the same feces from that patient himself, that also provides a good result in terms of decreasing the infection rate. So
Improve the
FMT
immunity.
is used in almost many other disciplines. So it is no longer restricted to field of gastroenterology. Acceptability is definitely increased much. And obviously, human beings are that way smart enough. They know, okay, here the thing works, but the thing which does not work is the aesthetics part of it. That is still not very pleasing. So how to make it more pleasing? Can you make capsules of FMT?
Yes.
So there are companies which have come up with capsules of these lot of bacterial strains. Like probiotics have 2 or 3 or 5 or at best 7 or 8 bacterial strains. Here you will have 30 bacterial strains, 40 bacterial strains. You culture them because this technology has also come up in last few years where you are able to culture bacteria which people were not earlier able to culture. So if you are able to culture them, then obviously then you can make medicines out of them. So you make medicines out of them, you make them capsules. You make capsules out of them. Capsules are much easier to take, right? So capsules are definitely going to replace, the capsules are a form of FMT only, but
Okay.
the way it is delivered, that is going to get replaced in the coming 1 or 2 years. I'm quite sure about it. That capsules gradually, many of the capsules are in phase 2 trials, phase 1, phase 2 trials, and once they reach till phase 3 trials, they're going to replace FMT. Replace FMT means it will be FMT only in the form of capsules.
So
So then they will name it as MMT,
MMT.
microbial manipulation therapies,
Okay. Okay.
right? Or they will name it as ecobiotics or next generation probiotics.
Okay.
That,
Yeah, it will become like a tablet. So
Yeah.
easier to take. Nobody has any problems with that.
okay, so thank you, sir, for giving us all this important info about FMT and the studies that was particularly interesting. And yeah, so since you have such a like interest in nutrition aspect of IBD also, so can you just tell us about that app that has been launched?
Okay, so,
IBD
so at
Detect app.
AIMS, we now have 4 dietitians who are only dedicated and devoted to patients of IBD, right? And our center has also been rated by Indian Council of Medical Research as a center for excellence in IBD diseases. So as part of that, what the diet team did over, because we realized that diet obviously seems to have an important role, and everybody seems to be pushing it under the carpet because people just doctors talk about medicine. Nobody has time to talk about diet, and people are not even sure about diet. They feel that whether it is works or not, and everything seems to move around according to personal preferences of each doctor or each patient. So as a result, patients actually become malnourished because they become too restrictive in diet also at times. ये नहीं खाना, वो नहीं खाना, ये नहीं करना, and all those kinds of things. So, and at the same time, diet can play a very, very important role in the life of a IBD patient. So if we can study the diet, we can tell the patient subsequently कि ये डाइट आपके लिए अच्छी है, और एक हर पेशेंट की अपनी डाइट को मॉनिटर भी हम कर सकते हैं कि क्या उसके लिए ठीक रहेगा, बिकॉज दिस इज व्हाट लाइक मोर ऑफ प्रिसिजन मेडिसिन वे बाय फॉर ईच पर्सन यू कैन पर्सनलाइज द डाइट एंड ऑल्सो गिव इट. सो हाउ नॉट डाइट में इफ यू आर गोइंग टू आस्क एवरीबडी कि आप आइए 10 दिन बाद आइए, वो मुश्किल है. 2 महीने बाद आप किसी को बुलाओगे, उसको बिल्कुल याद नहीं रहेगा उसने क्या डाइट ली हुई है पिछले 2 महीने में. वो 4-5 दिन का तो बता देगा, उसके बाद तो फिर देन that will be all guesswork. Now you won't remember it and all those things. So we thought that can we make a diet which is based on Indian foods, right? क्योंकि इंटरनेशनल वाले तो अवेलेबल है, बट इंडियन फूड्स वाला चाहिए. तो और उसमें इंडियन फूड्स में हर एक सारी रेसिपीज 600 रेसिपीज लेके उनकी न्यूट्रिशन सारों को कैलकुलेट करें, नॉट ओनली कैलोरीज, फैट्स एंड ऑल, बट वी आल्सो गेट टू नो कि कितने विटामिन्स उसमें जा रहे हैं. और उसमें व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट थिंग्स लाइक प्रोसेस्ड फूड और इन्फ्लेमेटरी डाइट वाले जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स होते हैं, वो उसमें कितना जा रहा है, ताकि वो स्कोर भी हम कर पाए. सो वी कम अप with a data which has taken 9 months, I would say, to make it regularly, because in the sense revising it, reviewing it, revising it, so that now what you can do is that you can register for this. Is available free as such on the web, on the app store, right? It is known as IBD NutriCare, except that you have to have a OPD OTP. शुरू में अपना फोन नंबर से रजिस्टर करोगे, OTP आएगा तो वो हमारा डाइट ग्रुप उसको एक्टिवेट करेगा, राइट? सो आई शेयर
नहीं है ऐप पे, मतलब रजिस्ट्रेशन का प्रॉब्लम है. ऐप पे रजिस्ट्रेशन का ऑप्शन नहीं है, सीधा लॉगिन का है. तो वैसे बोलते हैं कि मोबाइल नंबर नॉट रजिस्टर्ड.
नहीं, तो वो उसको आपको वो आई विल गिव यू द नंबर ऑफ द डाइटिशियंस आल्सो, सो दैट बिकॉज दैट वाज जस्ट लॉन्च्ड लास्ट वीक only. So this thing is getting, because one thing is that we need to also monitor the diets of everybody, so that is a particular reason. So उसमें ये है कि आप वो एप्पल पे भी और एंड्रॉयड पे दोनों पे भी अवेलेबल है, एंड इट इज एज आई सेड फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. एंड इसमें सारी रेसिपीज हैं, और उसमें आप न केवल अपनी डाइट बट अपनी मेडिसिन, आपको सो अपनी डिजीज एक्टिविटी भी अपने आप स्कोर कर सकते हैं, सब चीज़ें कर सकते हैं. सो दैट ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, if you keep the diet out there, then all this diet can be analyzed subsequently statistically. The data goes into an Excel sheet, so that all the dietary parameters they can be. So when they can be analyzed, then we can tell you, okay, you had the period of activity, then you were eating this diet. Those were the constants of that particular diet. It's not that we tell you कि भाई आप रोटी ज़्यादा खा रहे थे या सब्जी ज़्यादा खा रहे थे, आलू ज़्यादा खा रहे थे. We tell you exactly कि no, what was happening to calories, proteins, vitamin A, vitamin B, what was happening to them, calcium, what is happening to them. So we can give you a proper scientific report, and on the basis of it, then we can decide what kind of diet will be best. So we suppose we feel that a plant-based diet is best for you and put you on the plant-based diet, then we can monitor it on the basis of that diet, whether you're adhering to that kind of diet or not. So on the basis of this, I think every IBD patient's diet should be mapped, so that for them it becomes very important, because they can go back to it. Okay, 6 months back when I was doing very well for 3 months, I was eating this diet. The patient can himself see, अपने आप देख सकते हैं, हाँ भाई ये डाइट थी, अपने आप अपने कंक्लूजन्स बना सकते हो,
ट्रैक कर सकते हैं.
हाँ, ट्रैक कर सकते हो. अब आपको ये एक्टिविटी हुई है तो अब उसके साथ ये हो रहा है, तो दैट वे आई थिंक इट वुड बी अ वेरी यूजफुल टूल. So what I'll do is कि Nikhil, I'll send you the phone, and Debulina, I'll send you the phone numbers of the dietitians, so that for your whole group they can download, and there is no problem with regards to registration and everything. And at the same time, they can also call up our diet team and have the question answers वगैरह भी उनके साथ, in terms of if you have any particular कि ये नहीं चल रहा है, वो नहीं चल रहा उसमें, या कैसे हो रहा है, and or after 3-6 months, then we can sit down and also go over it in terms of what have been the dietary parameters, disease parameters, what was the correlation between them or not. So that is one thing, because we felt that if we have to go into diet, the information has to be collected very faithfully. The only way of collecting that information faithfully, if it is put it by the patient themselves, and the only way the patients can put it themselves, very difficult to note it down every day in a copy. If you have a diet app, in that app you keep on recording it, because that way you yourself are an equal stakeholder in terms of monitoring your diet and also giving observation what kind of diet works and what kind of diet doesn't.
So before you go, I just like to ask like your comments on one last question regarding diet only. So there's this conception that diet can cause IBD, or like many people ask questions like, what diet should I follow that I can get rid of all my medicines? So
That is a question for future. Ki what diet should I follow so that I get rid of all medicines right now? Okay, that is something which everybody is aiming for. Like changing the microbiome, FMT say you can may get rid of medicines. There is some FMT से एक स्टेप ऊपर डाइट है, क्योंकि FMT में बैक्टीरिया चेंज कर रहे हो, बैक्टीरिया को भी तो डाइट ही चेंज करते हैं ना एसेंशियली. So उस पे I would say work is evolving, and over next 4-5 years I see nationally, internationally, lot of work would be done on diet. So you should have answers for that second part. Now, whether does diet cause IBD? Yes, I think that westernized diet has predisposed to IBD. It may not be the direct cause, but has been one of the factors which has, it is like a complex system getting activated. So it could be one of the reasons by which this complex system got activated that these kind of diseases started coming up worldwide, right? So diet could be one of the possible causes, but right now, do you need to change your diet fully? I think again there, if you should be part of if you're going to, there's no definite answer for it right now. The answer for that is evolving.
but because
Personally, for each one of you,
that they have such kind of diets that you can get, and often patients are, they try these things and they lose a lot of money. So
okay, so what you do is we have diet trials running out here at AIIMS, right? Whereby you can enroll in those diet trials. Obviously, there you're not going to lose any money, and obviously at all. And there, those diet trials have been made on scientific basis, right? And see whether they benefit you or not. And if they benefit you, obviously your experience translates into experience for many other people. So that's
okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for
Thank you, sir.
giving us your time and all this info.
thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Devalin. It was a pleasure to be with you, right?
It was our privilege too, and happy Diwali to you too.
Happy Diwali, sir.
I think with sir, Diwali ke baad we will plan. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy Diwali.
Have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.